Purchasing real estate is a significant financial investment, especially these days. With rising costs pretty much everywhere we look, it is even more important to get the most out of the money that we're spending. So then, whether you're a first-time home buyer or an investor, implementing money-saving strategies can make a substantial difference in the overall cost to purchasing a home. In this video, we're going to explore 10 valuable tips to help you save money on your next real estate purchase. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, but a realtor and a consumer such as yourself. It is always a good idea to speak to a financial advisor before making any large money transaction. Now, having said that, let's get right into this video. Number one, you're going to want to establish a realistic budget. You're going to want to consider your financial situation, including your income, savings, and debt, to determine how much you can actually afford. And when determining your budget, you're going to want to make sure to include not only the purchase price, but also additional costs like closing fees and taxes, and really costs to maintain the home as well. A lot of times buyers don't understand what the carrying cost is for a home until they purchase a home, and then they're actually faced with it and they're realizing, oh my gosh, this is way more expensive than I thought it was going to be. And so before you purchase a real estate property, speak to your local realtor who can help explain all the costs you need to consider depending on what type of property you're buying and what type of community before you purchase. So for example, here in Sarasota, Florida, where I live, most gated communities are in an HOA community. So then you're going to need to consider the HOA costs, potential assessments coming in. And so in one of my other videos, I've actually talked about a detailed breakdown of all the possible expenses that you may have to incur if you're purchasing a house. And I'm going to link to that Excel spreadsheet that I actually made available to that video in the description section of this video so you can easily tap into it. But again, talk to a local realtor who can really help guide you, because a lot of the expenses that you're going to be incurring is going to depend on the location of where you're purchasing the home. Number two, stick with your budget. So many times I encounter buyers who have the set budget, but then later they end up going into a model home that's way over their budget. Maybe they're new construction buyers. And now all of a sudden, they feel like if I spend another $200,000, I can get such a nice home versus where my budget is. Maxing out your budget is never a really good plan, I don't think. So what you're going to want to do is really adhere to your budget when you're seeing homes, whether you're seeing them yourself or with your realtor, and stick to that budget. And that's because a home that exceeds your budget could lead to higher monthly mortgage payments, of course, but it could also put a strain on your finances and potentially lead you to financial instability, especially if the unexpected happens, right? Which could easily happen. Look at homes that fall within your budget, because it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome and then all of a sudden wanting to spend more money because you want that next level home. You can always upgrade later when you're in a better financial position. Number three is speak to a financial advisor or get a pre-approval from a mortgage lender. If you don't know what that budget should be, it's best to talk to a financial advisor, even if you just get half an hour or an hour of their time. I think it's so worth the money. If you're going to be financing, you could also speak to a mortgage broker who's going to guide you, and they're going to issue a pre-approval letter. Now, securing a pre-approval for a mortgage from a lender provides you with a clear understanding of what your borrowing capacity is. And with this pre-approval letter in hand, you're also going to be better set up when getting to the point where you're putting an offer in for a particular home. The sellers are going to want to see that you're serious and you're also financially able to put an offer on this home. You're able to purchase the house. Number four is research the market thoroughly. Before diving into the home buying process, you're going to want to conduct an extensive research on the local real estate market. You're going to want to analyze property prices, the sales trends, and the current inventory in the area you're interested in. There's actually a lot more data that you can tap into in order to help you understand where the market is at. Is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Where are some of the opportunities? But ultimately, you're getting data in order to help you avoid overpaying for a home. And this market knowledge data is also going to help you determine where the opportunities are. So for example, you could be looking at homes that have been on the market for, say, 60 days. these homes are either overpriced, okay? And so that might give you a bargaining opportunity. Perhaps at this point, sellers are going to be much more eager to selling that property, unless you're dealing with a seller that doesn't really need to sell and they're just waiting for that perfect buyer that's going to be willing to pay the ask price. But in a lot of cases, homes that have been sitting on the market, you may have an opportunity to come in with a much lower price, and the seller may actually entertain it because it's been sitting on the market for so long. So as you can tell, there's a lot of information that you can uncover just by looking at data, but it's also time consuming, and some of you just don't really like dealing with numbers altogether. And so the other option is to partner up with a local realtor, somebody that's really good at data analysis, that enjoys it, and they can do a lot of heavy lifting for you. And so here's the good news. In most cases, it's the seller that pays the buyer's agent when the home closes. And so there's no out-of-pocket expense for you. And instead, you're getting somebody that is going to help you find the right home for you. Number 5 is negotiate the purchase price. So negotiation is the crucial skill when it comes to saving money on a real estate purchase. You're going to want to familiarize yourself with the various potential outcomes of making a specific offer. So for example, don't hesitate to offer a reasonable offer below the listing price if supported that the ask price is way too high. A lot of times the seller will overprice their homes, right? Because they're just hoping that one of you buyers will actually pay that ask price. But you're smart, you got market knowledge, and so you know, based on the data that you've crunched, that the fair value of the house is way below the ask price. And that's when you have a real opportunity in today's market to come in with a lower price. But also know that some sellers may reject the offer and move on to another buyer. So you're just going to want to understand what the different scenarios are that could play out depending on your offer strategy. And here's a tip for you. Try not to be emotionally connected to a home. I know that's really difficult. We see a beautiful home and we get emotionally attached to it. But that's a lot of times when you're willing to make some irrational decisions, or maybe not the best decisions for you. And so always be prepared to walk away from a deal that doesn't align with your budgetary constraints. At the end of the day, there's going to be another house that's going to come in, and you may have another opportunity to bid on that house. It's just a matter of time. Number 6, consider undervalued areas. Expand your property search beyond trendy neighborhoods and consider up-and-coming or less popular areas that may have significant growth potential in the future. These types of locations usually have properties that are much more affordable, but with the potential to appreciate substantially over time. As you move away from the city center, housing becomes more affordable, more budget friendly. The cost saving benefits can be substantial, especially if you're somebody that doesn't really mind driving. And so keep an open mind. There's a lot of great neighborhoods out there in the US that may not be getting the PR, but who knows, maybe in a few years from now, it's going to evolve to one of the prime locations. I'll give you an example. Parrish, which is to the northern part of Lakewood Ranch in Florida, maybe 10, 15 years ago was considered the boondocks, but it's up and coming. There's just so much new construction happening. And so people who moved to Parrish, even a few years ago, are seeing massive appreciation because nowadays it's becoming a hot spot to live in, especially for those people who want to be close to Lakewood Ranch, but they don't want to pay that price tag. So here's the opportunities to look for these neighborhoods, maybe more quiet neighborhoods, but you're seeing more new construction opportunities in these neighborhoods. And that's probably a good sign that builders are seeing the opportunity in that location. You could also look for properties that need a little bit more updating. So nowadays, properties that need a bit of work typically stay in the market longer, where last year it didn't really matter. People were just buying them in droves. What if you found a home that had the layout you wanted? It's in the location you wanted, but it does need a bit of work to get it up to the level, to the standards when it comes to updates that you're used to or that you desire. If you're willing to put the work in, these types of homes typically have more room for negotiation. potentially allowing you to secure a much better deal. And how do you find these opportunities? Speak to your local realtor. Number 7 is get an inspection on a really thorough inspection. In 2022, it was so common for buyers to waive the inspection because they just wanted the home so bad, right? FOMO. And so lots of them waived all contingencies. I don't ever recommend that you waive the home inspection. And that's because the home inspection step can uncover potential issues with the property that might require costly repairs in the future. And those repairs in the future, you may not be willing to take on. So the inspection results can be used to negotiate either a lower price or request the seller to address necessary repairs before the sale, depending on what contracts you have. So here in Florida, we have the as-is contract, but the buyer basically says, okay, I'm going to be purchasing this house as is. But the buyer has the home inspection period to really decide whether or not they're going to want to move on beyond the inspection period. A lot of times buyers will go through the inspection and they'll see that the house just needs too much updating, and they'll, in writing, cancel the contract before the inspection period is over. And that's perfectly fine. I had a situation where a buyer really loved this much older home. It was almost 100 years old, and the home was certainly charming. It was in a really nice, quaint neighborhood. But once the inspector came in, the inspector found too many issues with the home. So many issues that the buyer said, you know what, this is going to be a money pit for me. And the buyer decided to cancel the contract in time. And so in hindsight, this buyer made a good decision because she ended up going under contract for a house that is in a much better location when it comes to her interests.
Just be patient.
Number 8 is choosing the right time. I do believe that time in the real estate market is pretty tricky, kind of like the stock market. It's tough to time the stock market, right? A lot of us thought that the market was going to crash, not me, but lots of people have been talking about a market crash for the last 3 years. Now prices, in some cases, are double what they were 3 years ago. If there's going to be a market crash in the future, it's going to be very doubtful that the prices for real estate are going to be back down to, say, 2020 levels or 2029 levels. A lot of economists are now saying that we've reached the bottom of the real estate market, when across several different regions of the United States, we've actually still seen year-over-year price increases. If we've reached a bottom, what does that mean for future prices? It's evident that market dynamics can be unpredictable. But here's the real thing, that is seasonal prices can fluctuate over the year. During the springtime, prices typically tend to be higher, and then it starts tapering off into the autumn and winter month. And so if you're somebody that's been thinking about purchasing, you don't believe that the market is going to be crashing, now may be a good time to start looking seriously, because we're heading into the autumn winter months. There's going to be far less buyers to compete with, and usually prices will come down slightly. But even more importantly, I think, is that you won't be competing against all these different buyers for one particular home. That in itself is already refreshing. Number 9 is find and explore off-market deals. Sometimes real estate deals are available, but they're not publicly listed. So you're going to want to work with a real estate agent who's going to be able to help uncover these off-market opportunities. And that's because realtors know realtors who know realtors. They talk. They will find out that a listing is coming up, right? That a potential home that fits a certain criteria is going to be listed. These types of deals are going to have far less competition because it's going to be much harder to get to that information. At Coldwell Banker, we have access to Exclusive Look, which is a platform that allows Coldwell Banker agents to highlight a home before it goes live in the MLS. The buyer and I will have advantage in that we're the first ones to know that this listing is up. Number 10 is get a realtor. You don't need to do this on your own. Get a realtor to help you. They're going to provide you with expertise, with data. And again, in most cases, the seller will pay for the realtor. So you have really nothing to lose, but lots and lots to gain to help you get the best purchase, the best home for you. If you like this video, do me a favor, like this video. It does help out the video's performance. Now, if you're somebody that's interested in real estate in Florida, maybe you're interested in Sarasota County, Manatee County, where I'm active in, call me, email me anytime. I would love to connect with you, talk to you, help you. And thank you so much for watching today. I always appreciate it when you guys do. Take care.